Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the SDG launch amid the high-level week of the 79th UN General Assembly here in New York. I'm Miriam Gray from the World Bank, and I'm delighted to moderate this important conversation on the International Development Association, or IDA. IDA is the World Bank's fund for 77 low-income countries with a track record of results over the decades. We're honored to be here today and joined by our key partners of IDA, friends of IDA, His Excellency Hamza Abdi Barre, Prime Minister of Somalia, and His Excellency Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Denmark. This conversation comes at a pivotal moment, 2 months before the final pledging for IDA 21st replenishment, and comes after a milestone moment we just had in April when 19 African heads of states gathered for a historic call for action for a robust IDA 21 replenishment. Finally, last but not least, we are very pleased to share that earlier this week, Denmark made an early commitment to IDA 21 and announced a 40% increase in the country's contribution. So this conversation is happening against an exciting and very high-stakes backdrop. Mr. Prime Minister, let me start with you. The theme of the SDG launch this year is growing solutions to accelerate progress towards SDGs. What does growing solutions mean to you, and how does IDA play a role in this already?
Thank you very much, and I want to thank my brother. Thank you, and welcome to the debate. Good morning, everyone, and I want to thank you for your having us and give us this important opportunity to discuss the vital role of IDA 21 in ending poverty in Africa. For Somalia, IDA is critical, central to enabling our ambitious transnational transformational agenda in this hopeful post-debt relief process period. IDA 21, with its diversity, flexibility, and favorable terms, is the only large-scale means to factor in Somalia's unique situation in the global development financing architecture. In fact, IDA is the largest and the most impactful development financing options open to fragile and low-income countries like Somalia. Without IDA, the international financial architecture would be even less inclusive than it already is. Despite Somalia's debt relief successes and determined economic reforms, including domestic revenue mobilization, Somalia is still a fragile post-conflict nation. And Somalia's debt relief process lessened our debt burden, but it didn't not create new fiscal space to invest in much needed sustainable development. Therefore, even highly concessional borrowing is the major challenge, and it risks to Somalia, to Somalia's debt sustainability, and we must avoid this. Today, our domestic revenues are increasing, owing it is tax administration reforms, better policies, and modernized laws. However, we are still working toward covering the full cost of running our governments in 2027. In line with the new three-year IMF follow-on program. This is alongside dealing with the painful and unjust chronic and recurrent climate crisis, which requires huge investment in mitigation and adaptation, which we cannot avoid right now. Somalia's population are resilient, yet we are among the poorest in the world. And we are also fighting international terrorists and are affected severely by geopolitics, including Red Sea crisis. Therefore, we face actually the difficult policy trade-offs. What do we use our meager and very little domestic resource for? Do we deal with the climate crisis which we have contributed to least to, or provide basic public services for our people? This is actually a dilemma, and our government's goal is to build resilience through the economic reforms, public sector investment in security, education, health, social protection, as well as the growing the economy to create jobs and other opportunities. The grant-based and the strategic financing offered by IDA is fundamental to this to succeed. Since IDA 18, Somalia has received 2.67 billion in IDA resource. This is very welcome and a sizable increase in our portfolio. These resources helped us to achieve the following. First is the core institution system building, culminating in the achievement of heavy completion point last year, 2023. Second is the earlier Somali multi-partner trust fund investments also laid down groundwork for full engagement under IDA and with the international financial institutions. These are the first large-scale development and state-building investments, and while the humanitarian financing is still needed, the hope is that IDA funds will direct humanitarian and development partners to use country systems. Also, IDA supports the rehabilitation of success roads and climate resilience and climate resistance infrastructure in several municipalities, bring various benefits for about 500,000 people, including about 100,000 IDPs that had migrated to urban areas due to security and natural disasters. And finally, IDA supported rural areas and communities where more than 360,000 people gaining access to water. All in all, on my point of view and point of Somalia, IDA is very important. Thank you very much.
Minister Rasmussen, I heard that you were there when SDGs were actually built. So you do have a personal history to SDGs. And you just heard from Somalia how important IDA is for the country, and we call it the best deal for development. Thank you very much for your support to IDA. And the question is, why IDA, why now, and why it is important for Denmark?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having us here this morning. And I recall very well that meeting where I had the honor to chair the General Assembly or the summit meeting when we adopted the SDGs. And I think my colleague, the Prime Minister of Somalia, basically answered your first question, why IDA. So if I should add anything to that, it should be a few words about scale and partnership and demand. Scale, as it was stated, IDA is the largest fund for the developing countries, and therefore can deliver impact on a very, very big scale. And it's a lifeline for almost 2 billion, 1.9 billion poor people it serves. So that's one reason. And another, of course, partnership, because the World Bank works in close partnership with the governments it serves, as we just heard. And that means that funding is spent on national development priorities. And this fit very well into the spirit of the Danish development policy. And finally, demand. We try to do our utmost to listen. So when Africa head of states came together in Nairobi in this spring, in April, and asked for an ambitious IDA replenishment, we decided we would try answering the call. And it also basically answered the next question about why an increase. And I think in order to answer that question, we have to look at the bigger picture. If we should deliver, and we shall deliver, on the SDGs and the Paris Agreement, we need to mobilize $1 trillion. And for that to happen, we need reforms of the international financial architecture. And it is a matter of fact that the World Bank is the largest provider of concessional finance for the developing countries. And what I find particularly unique is the fact that this business model means that every dollar contributed is multiplied 3.5 times. So it's money very well spent. So in short, Denmark is increasing our commitment to IDA with 40% to answer the financing need for developing and climate in developing countries, and IDA has a very, very strong business case. And then finally, why now? Because now is exactly the time where we need to act. We are lagging a bit behind. You made the reference to the adoption of the SDGs. I think we all felt very positive about it. And since then, the world have changed not only to the better. We are facing a lot of challenges, a totally new geopolitical situation. But we must recall what this is all about. So if we should deliver the SDGs, we simply have to step up and do more. And I'm just, proud that I have the honor to serve in a country where we have fulfilled our commitments for almost 4 decades in terms of ODA. And that gives us opportunities and thereby also an obligation to do what we can do.
That's great. Thank you. My next question is a little more of an inspirational, a visionary type. The UN Summit of the Future just concluded, steps away from here. And IDA did come up a few times. And it's something that needs to be improved, bolstered, to help countries, just like you said yourself. It's a common future. What is your vision for the future of development? And what is your vision to support IDA? And Prime Minister, I'll go next to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Looking ahead, my vision for Somalia, and indeed Africa, centers on a future where we can achieve sustainable, inclusive growth that lifts our people out of the poverty. And with the continued support of IDA 21, we will deepen our reforms, create jobs through the private sectors, and the public, and build resilience against climate shocks. Somalia's National Transformation Plan serves as our blueprint for this future. It aligns with the IDA's objectives by prioritizing human capital, governance reforms, and infrastructure development that can withstand the test of time. And globally, IDA 21 must continue to push for equitable, climate-resilient development, ensuring that vulnerable populations can withstand external shocks. Thank you.
Next to you, what's the future looks like for you, and what is the, how do you see the future for development?
Yeah, you asked about my vision, and perhaps my personal vision is not of great importance. I think what is much more important is that we have a vision, and we have a shared vision, which was established by the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement, and we should remind ourselves about that. And in this unpredictable times we live in right now, I was thrilled by the fact that leaders actually managed to reaffirm these commitments earlier this week by adopting the Pact of the Future. So that is the clear vision, and hopefully the Pact for the Future can be a kind of engine reminding ourselves of what we agreed upon years ago, and a tool for delivering on these promises. So that is the most important thing for mankind. I think more and more people realize that we are totally independent, interlinked. We have a common future. Even in countries as Denmark, in Scandinavia, welfare societies with a lot of prosperity, we are facing climate change. People realize that we can't solve this problem without investing more in Africa, for instance. We just adopted a comprehensive strategy towards Africa with very, very broad political support in Denmark, changing our relationship from, aid to trade to more equal partnership. And there's a new, I think, consensus, at least in my society, that we need to step up, we need to do more. We only have this one globe, so it's too late to be short now, but the short answer would be that it's not about my vision, it's about our shared vision.
Fantastic. Last question. Well, it is the final stretch for IDA 21 replenishment. It's been a tough one. It's a decisive moment. The months and decisions are ahead. Very important. It is really make or break. And on that note, what I would like is to invite you both to share one message on IDA that you would like to pass to other donors and decision makers. Let's start with you, Prime Minister.
To the donors and decision makers of IDA, my message is very simple. your continued support is the lifeline for fragile nations like Somalia. And AIDA financing has been critical in transforming our institutions, building resilience, and restoring hope for millions of Somalis. As we approach the AIDA 21 replenishment, we urge you to recognize the important role you play in shaping Somalia and other fragile countries' future and accelerating progress toward the SDGs. Thank you.
Over to you.
Well, I would love to sign up for that message and echo that. We are, Denmark, a member of a too small and too exclusive club of countries meeting the UN target of providing 0.7% of gross national income for ODA. So I think my key message should be that this is a very, very good club, and more should join. So I think that will be, my final word. I think step up, do more, deliver some additional funding.
Well, I guess this is a fantastic way to end. Step up, do more. It's a good club. Thank you very much. Thank you for all these perspectives and showing us how really AIDA works on the ground to advance sustainable development, the SDGs, particularly in the places of most need like Africa. As you heard today, the upcoming AIDA 21 replenishment is not just another replenishment. It's a commitment to shared global prosperity and more sustainable future. Thank you all, distinguished guests and panelists and guests who joined us today for your attention, for being with us and for joining us at this beautiful SDG Lounge.